In this lesson, we're going to talk a little bit about setting keyframes in Maya. Now, the first thing that we want to do is make sure that our vehicle is going to be driving on a surface, so we're just going to come right up here and create a planar surface. There we go. Good. I'll scale that up a little bit. Alright, the second thing we're going to do is create a camera. We'll go back to our perspective, view, and just go ahead and create a camera out here. We'll adjust that camera view as we create our animation of the car driving around the surface. So right up here to create cameras, camera, and that puts the camera right there in the world. We'll go ahead and bring that out here for now. Okay, so if I come right up here to panels, perspective, I can go ahead and look through my camera. Right now I don't see anything. So let's go ahead and put our use our camera tools. So let's push F on our keyboard to locate everything. We'll come right up here and position our camera for now about right here so we see our vehicle. And let's see, let's go ahead and set up our render settings. Right down here under image size, I just have a 640 by 480 because I'll be posting this on the blog. You can go to HD if you choose, 1080, and go ahead and close that. And then right up here we'll want to make sure that we have everything that we're animating within our view that's going to be rendered. So we'll just go ahead and click on resolution gate, and this gives us the window to make sure that our animation is fitting within there. Alright, so now what we're going to do is get our setup in place. I'm going to go right down here, marking menu. I don't think you can see that in my capture, but I'm depressing the space bar, and I'm going to come right down here to panels, the layout, and I'm going to do 3-panel split top for this demonstration. And here you can see that I have 2 cameras here, so I'll just go ahead and set that. This is my camera 2, the one we just positioned, and I'll keep this one the perspective camera so that I can work in here. And then here we just need a little space for our curves, our animation curves, to be able to see them. So now that we have our workspace in order, let's go ahead and begin talking about the rig and how we want to proceed with our animation. So as we look at our rig, I went ahead and did a little color on the rig itself, and as explained in a previous tutorial, and I went ahead and on certain axes and these translate, rotate, and scale attributes, I went ahead and locked down some of the attributes on that. Let's go ahead and assign this image plane to a different layer so we're not selecting it. You can also depress this icon up here. Alright, so visibility. No, we can't. And we're not selecting the car. But you can also depress this icon right up here, which prohibits you from selecting geometry. So when I select on these controllers, you can see that everything is locked down except the attribute that I want keyframed. So that will really help you if you follow through with those rigging tutorials before you get started. So now I can come in here and position my vehicle in the world, and you can see that this is a translation in the Z. And no, that's not keyframed, it's just positioning it in the world. That's typically what's done in your game code, is that the game code will position according to this translation, or this highest rig node that we created. It's global node. Alright, another thing we want to do is determine about the duration of the animation that we want. And you can you can put that information right in here. I chose 100 frames. It'll probably be less, but I give myself a little bit extra just in case. You can always go back in here and change that. Also, over here in the lower right hand corner, you'll want to click on Animation Preferences. Here under Settings, you can select Time Film 24 frames per second. And also down here, let's see, time slider, you'll want, I think by default it's on play every frame. You can play half or twice as fast, but if you play real time, 24 frames per second, then you'll be able to see your animation at the speed at which it will render. So go ahead and save those settings, and then you can begin keyframing your animation. Another thing you'll want to do to speed up your playback is to go ahead and take smoothing off of your vehicles. If you have smoothing proxy on, that's 1, 2, 3 on the keyboard, then you'll want to remove that or set that back down to 1. That way when you play back, it won't drop frames. It won't look like your animation is chunking. Now we're going to keep the animation fairly simple for this first tutorial. So what I'm going to be doing is top-down view. We're going to determine where that vehicle is in the world. We'll start it right here, and we'll just make a little turnaround in front of the camera. When we begin keying, we will want to first key the global node as it's positioned, and I can see that my time slider, you can click with your left mouse button and drag, or scrub as they call it, across the time slider to get to the frame number of the animation that you want to work at. We're going to begin on frame 1 with this position, or this global translation node or controller. So when we have our controller selected, so I have just this one node selected, and because it's the parent, you'll see the other controls selected as well. So what I'm going to do is simply key. I'm going to select the translation axes that I have numbers in, and with my control key I can select those and right click and say key selected. Now many times animators will begin by keying everything on frame 1 or frame 0, depending on how you have your setup established, so that they know that all the keyable nodes are keyed on that first frame. So we're just going to key information where we need it. We know that we're going to be moving this vehicle in the world, so we want to make sure to establish a keyframe here to start with. So now what we're going to do is scrub our time slider over to frame 100, and we want that car to come around and then end over there. So I'm just going to drag it over to the end position, frame it up, and go ahead and key on that that frame. Okay, right click, key selected. And now what I want to do is it's facing in the opposite direction that I want it to end up. So I'm going to get my rotation and rotate that around in the direction that I want it facing. You see my numbers are here, so I'm going to select on rotate Y, right click, and key that as well. Now, the reason I did that is because I want to show you what happens when you don't key something on frame 1 and you end up keying it on another frame. You can see, let's see if I can zoom that in pretty closely, that as I travel back to that original location, then it's still facing in that direction because I did not key it in the frame 1 on the rotate just to translate. So that's easy enough to fix. Select your object, you got your rotation value here, go ahead and put in 0 to turn that vehicle back around, and now you can select on that and key it. Now if you go ahead and scrub through your animation, you can see that it not only translates over there, but it rotates as well. Now, alright, so that's our first and our second keyframes. Now we want to put an in-between in there. We know our car we want our car to come around this curve, so the in-between would be right here, facing in that direction. So we're just going to go to frame 50, and we're going to get our vehicle, F on a keyboard, that same translation node, and get our move tool, and we're going to move that over to the position that we want it. Go ahead and frame in, and it is in fact going in the direction that we want it to go as well in our translation, and that's the one we want to select and key. So now if we scrub through this animation, we can see very roughly our 2 keyframes and our in-between. Now let's go back to our 3 frames, and you can see what that looks like on the time slider. If I select all of the rotation and translation nodes that I set keyframes, and then click right up here, frame all, you'll be able to see the animation curves. They are set up like Bezier curves, so you can grab those nodes and select on the handles, and with the middle mouse button you can change the direction of the way that that car is traveling, and I'll show you the effect that that has on the animation. Alright, so it's actually very different looking now than it was. What's happened is, because you've changed the direction of the vehicle and the speed at which it's coming into the curve and out of the curve, and you'll see that represented down here. And in a really neat feature of Maya 2012 is that you actually get to create a curve on the surface that you are animating and manipulate that curve right on the surface. So it's much like a path spline that you would set a constraint to, and you can actually manipulate that in the same way. Alright, so go ahead and put that back for now, and we will continue by setting keyframes on other controllers.